First of all, Merry Christmas, everybody. As you look across your living room in your home at that beautiful Christmas tree you've got, you may be wondering, how did it get to that point? What all is involved in growing some of those trees? And I'm here to answer that question for you. Hanging out with Mr. Greg Smith, operations manager at 7G's Farm right here in Nicholson, Georgia. Want to talk to him about some of the ways these trees are prepared throughout the year. And Mr. Smith, appreciate you spending some time with us today.
My pleasure.
Talk to us about the history of 7G's Farm, and we're among some trees right here. Tell us about that.
7G's Farm became a reality in 2001. My brother Gary decided we needed Christmas trees because they were too hard to find going out in the woods now. So in 2001, we planted 2,500 trees, and away we went on this merry adventure. Unfortunately, Gary only got to realize his dream for 5 years. He passed away in 2006. So we now continue his dream by trying to share Christmas trees with our neighbors, friends, and family.
It's wonderful. And as I look out across this field of trees, what are some things that your brother and that you worry about as you look out across this, as these things are growing? We're looking at Leland cypress, about 4 years old. What are some things that keep you up at night with regards to these trees before they're being sold?
There are two items that really we worry about. There's a fungus that will get in these trees during the hot, rainy seasons called Cercospora or needle blight that will wipe you out unless you treat with a fungicide, which we now do 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay.
The second being that really pretty white-tailed deer that everybody loves to see except a Christmas tree farmer. Those babies, when they go in rut, they will absolutely destroy a tree. They will rub those branches out, and suddenly you've got a 7-foot tree that's turned into a 3-foot tree that might be of some value. So those are the two items that we worry about the most.
Who would have known that, looking across your living room, thinking about those things? I want to talk with this gentleman about how extension is helping with some of these problems next. So as Mr. Smith said, deer and fungus cause some problems for those 4-year-old cypresses. But what happens when a field is blank and bare? What kinds of things go into preparing that field? Well, Mr. Smith was telling us that one of the things he does is he reaches out to the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension, and I'm so glad you do it. Everybody at home knows I always wear my shirt, UGA Extension, and I just so happen to have a soil test bag in my pocket that Mr. Smith would use. Mr. Smith, you'll take a soil test, send it over to UGA, they give you the results of that test, and then what? How are we getting to the point where we've got these trees in the ground now?
Once we have results back from our county agent, we work with a company called Regal Chemical, which will take our results and make suggestions on how to best give product to these trees to make them better for our customers in the future. We use several different products once they're in the ground. We use a root stimulator once we put them in the ground. Then we put the 16-8, 16 time release fertilizer around them, and then also a multigreen vitamin to help with any iron deficiencies they may have.
Interesting. Now, I'm looking across this thing and I'm thinking, so Mr. Smith is operations manager out here. You alone are getting all these trees in the ground once that's fertilized and everything. Tell me that's not true. Do you get any help putting these things in the ground?
Well, I wish I could say that, but no, this is a pretty good undertaking to put 1,000 trees in the ground. We dig a hole in the ground with our Case tractor, a 12-inch diameter hole, 18 inches deep, and then we call on our elves to help us plant the trees.
And they're closer to the ground. They're able to get those things in the ground. It's hilarious. It's very, very good. Getting these things straight. Now, one more thing to ask. These are beautiful rows. Every once in a while, I see some of the trees that are kind of tilted over one way or another. What has caused that?
Well, there's two reasons for that. One, some human error, but mostly I like to blame the old white-tailed deer running through here. You know, a lot of people love that white-tailed deer, but I'm not a fan.
Interesting. What I want to do is I want to take us from these babies over to the store and learn a little bit more about those Trees for the Troops effort. So let's check that out. Now, many of y'all have heard about the Trees for the Troops effort, and Mr. Smith happens to be a big participant in that. Why is this such a special thing for you, Mr. Smith?
You know, I'm not a veteran. I do this in honor of my dad, who was a veteran in WW2, and we're doing it in his honor. We've been doing this for 10 years, and our farm this year is sending 100 trees out to Fort Stewart on December the 1st.
It's incredible. Imagine those folks lining up there to get those trees and the efforts you're doing. From taking care of the trees here, from the deer and the fungus to helping the troops. Mr. Smith, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. And Merry Christmas to you. Thank you so, so much. And for all of y'all at home, Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for making this such a successful year for us here at the Georgia Farm Monitor. I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, as always, that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass that stuff on. Have a great end of the year and new year, and I'll see you next time. See ya.